Okay, welcome to Mzansi's MMA show, the show where one South African professional comedian, Prince, and one South African amateur comedian, me, discuss things that are on our MMA radar and hopefully throw in a few gags. Speaking of a few gags, don't miss my partner in crime, Prince's show. Laughter is the best vaccine. It's an online comedy show. It's coming up on the 28th of Jan 2021. We will put in the link below the video. So support South African comedy. And we are today previewing Mcgregor versus Poirier.
Woo!
And let me start off by asking Prince, since the first fight from Conor's side, what has changed?
What has changed? So you mean like what can we expect to see different this time around from the notorious Conor McGregor? Well, according to Conor McGregor, like he's improved a vast load. So he on his Instagram he posted a picture of him when he fought against Eddie Alvarez, and he posted a picture of him. I think when he fought Dustin Poirier before, or when he fought Jose Aldo, whatever the case may be. Oh no, I think it was a picture of him when he beat Cowboy. So picture that. So there's a picture of himself versus Cowboy, a picture of himself when he beat Eddie Alvarez, and he went on to comment and say he would kick both those Conor McGregor's asses if he had to fight them today. So if he had to fight himself today, he said he'd totally dominate both those fighters. So his mindset is that he's gotten a ton load better since the last time we saw him. We do know that since fighting Dustin the last time, he has had a meteoric rise to the top, all the way to beating beating Jose Aldo for the featherweight title. Then again, his double fight with Nate Diaz, which were both absolute thrillers, and really saw him step up to beat Nate in that second fight. It really took a major elevation on his part. Then, of course, we saw him take the belt, the lightweight belt from Eddie Alvarez, with class, with finesse, as crisp and as clean as you like. And then we saw him fight 10 rounds of boxing against boxing's fighter of all time, perhaps, in terms of statistics, which is Floyd Money Mayweather. And then he came back to fight wrestling's all-time wrestler of all time, Russian Khabib, and of course we know that he lost that one. So a lot has happened for the notorious Conor McGregor. I do believe that believing that he's a much improved fighter, I do believe that that's true. What do you think?
I'm always caught between what is the hype around Conor McGregor and what is reality, right? So if we had to look at his last fight, okay, he lived up to the hype, but how great an opponent is Cowboy? Was he on the way down? That was also a weird weight class for both of them, 170. So, the thing that sort of irritates me a little bit about Conor is all the hype in some ways. Like, it works for him. Like, sometimes the hype is a tool that he uses to defeat his opponents. But, it's sort of like, I don't really find him that genuine, because if you had to look at what he said at the end of last year, oh, I'm going to be super active, I'm going to be in the octagon all the time, I'm going to be showing, what I am. So it's easy to talk about like how good you are when you've been in the gym. But as a fan, if I don't see what Conor's actually doing in the octagon, it's hard for me to actually say what is real and what isn't. You know what I'm saying? He might look in great shape. He might throw in a couple of great Insta videos of him hitting the bag. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure, like, if I spent all day, practicing,
promoting
I could post
how funny you are.
Boxing video myself. You know what I'm saying?
If you spend all day just promoting how funny you are, like, I'm so funny, you should check out my. Eventually, people are like, I think Couch is really funny.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know that isn't true.
Couch, you're so cruel.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So I think we've covered Conor.
Yeah.
So what do you think has changed for Dustin?
I think everything has changed for Dustin Poirier. He's a much improved fighter than what he was. Look, apparently he's always been good. Even when Conor beat him, he was really good. But I think since then, he's really probably... I think the big major change that we can expect from Poirier in this fight is the mental. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So last time, I think Conor's major edge was being mentally the better fighter and mentally being all up in Poirier's head, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone doubted Poirier's skills back then already. I think back then people already respected him as one of the dopest guys in the division. But I think since then his mental has just really improved. We saw him fight right through Justin Gaethje, took Gaethje out. I mean, that takes a lot of mental strength to stand in there, to take those punches. Because Gaethje is the kind of fight like you hit him and you're like, is this guy ever going to go away? I might just be hitting and tiring myself or defeating myself here. You really got to stay in there mentally to defeat a guy like Gaethje. I was really impressed with Poirier's fight against Dan Hooker, because I feel like Dan Hooker felt like he was on the up and up, and he was the next guy to get a title shot, and he was the next dopest guy. And for Poirier to come off a Khabib loss, pull himself together, get back in there, and get back on the W sheet, it was fantastic. I enjoyed seeing that. So I think Conor McGregor is going up against a much more mentally disciplined Dustin Poirier, and a much more difficult to put away. Who's put Poirier away in recent time besides Khabib with a choke? It's unheard of in these times.
Yeah. I mean, Dustin is a way different fighter, and he's had a lot more minutes in the octagon than Conor.
Yeah.
So if you had to look at who's the more active fighter in the UFC, without all this boxing BS and fighters that have stayed in one division and have really like proven their worth in 155, you got to go with Dustin in terms of stepping in over and over, fighting Alvarez twice, and like just really proving your worth. What you have to say first. Okay.
Let me just add before we jump into that. Like, just a point I needed to mention here is that Dustin Poirier at 155 is a much heavier puncher than Dustin Poirier at 145.
Yes.
And that was very noticeable in the Max Holloway fight. Yes. Right? Holloway came up to 155 for the first time. He fought Poirier. You thought it was going to be a 145 type power exchange. Max, for the most part, outpunched Poirier when it came to speed and and volume. But Poirier's punches, everyone that landed clearly had an impact on Max, like real impact. Like every punch was like, whoa, that could have put him out. I think Poirier at 155 knocked out Justin Gaethje. Poirier at 155 is a menace. So I think McGregor, yes, he's relying on that left hand to come through with power, but I think this time he should be expecting power to come back in the opposite direction.
So do you want to talk about your prediction?
Look, for me, the prediction really is a story. I'm really going to go for the sentimental on this one. I'm going for the sentiment on this one. Conor McGregor represents what all human beings fantasize about, which is this great, elegant, charismatic, shining bright, all the way to the top, infinity and beyond stardom. It's just like the kind of things that you dream about at night, and you're like, wow, if I could be this knight in shining armor, this valiant warrior. That's Conor McGregor kind of paints that fantasy for you. He's the guy who makes millions. He's the face of the UFC. He's the guy who fights Floyd Mayweather. He's the guy who loses to Nate Diaz and comes back and gets the W. He's the guy that wins 2 belts and puts one on the shoulder and one on the other shoulder. And I fucking love it, That is the Conor McGregor. That's what he represents as a story. But let's be honest, as human beings, as flawed human beings, the story is really the Dustin Poirier story, isn't it? It's this guy who he calls himself Dustin the Diamond Poirier. He calls himself a diamond because a diamond is one of those stones that is probably nasty and ugly when you find it. It's there in the rough. It really requires polishing. It really requires taking care of. You need to chisel it. You need to work it. You put it on a ring. You give it to a girl. You say, may I marry you? It represents your love for eternity. That's a diamond, and that's what Dustin is. He lost to Conor. He lost to other opponents too. But his rise to the top has been a slow and steady and annoying and frustrating and hurdles and speed humps and injury and loss and blood and sweat and tears and humiliation. And he's really, that's the story that I really love. You know, that's the story that got him to the Khabib fight. Even
Mm-hmm.
when he fought Khabib and lost it, he was still humble. He still went back. I think he kind of cried in the octagon too. He's like, I'm gonna have to wake up in the morning. I have to look myself in the mirror. I'm gonna have to live with this result. Yet he picked himself up. He came back for Dan Hooker. He put Dan Hooker in his place. And here he is. Here he is again. That's the story I connect with. So I'm going for Dustin on this one.
I am going with Dustin also. The thing about Conor is it's hype. You know what I'm saying? And people love hype. It's like The Secret. Conor's like The Secret. Like you know, if you just believe hard enough and you put 2 belts on your board, you're going to get 2 belts.
Yeah.
My one caveat is I've got 2 caveats to this.
Okay, cool.
One is if you were to compare how Poirier did against Khabib, and you were to compare how Conor did against Khabib, Conor did last a little longer than Poirier did against Khabib. So if you were to sort of look at 2 players against one major, the best opponent, which is Khabib, and who does better against that one excellent opponent, even though the styles are different, then you got to go with Conor on that. Also, and I am saying Conor's going to lose, but every time I say Conor's going to lose, the motherfucker wins. You know what I'm saying?
He's got the secret, right?
He's got the secret. His secret always outshines my secret somehow.
Yeah.
But so those are my 2 caveats. But if you really look at it on paper, as long as Dustin uses his experience not to get swarmed like Cowboy did, because that's to me the only way Conor is going to win is if he swarms him, like
in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. But if it comes down to a 5-round war, hey, Conor gets tired, right?
Yeah, Dustin's got better cardio in that regard. I've seen Conor McGregor get tired so often. Can I just say, my caveat to your Khabib, comparing them both to Khabib, I would say, Conor did last longer, but I think he lasted longer because Khabib wanted him to last longer. Khabib didn't want that fight to end quickly. Khabib was on a mission to punish. Khabib wasn't looking for the finish. Remember Khabib choked out Dustin because he felt like, I need to finish this fight before this guy gets any motivation, before this guy gets any momentum. Let me finish this fight. Against Conor, Khabib was not trying to finish that fight.
Just let's talk now.
Khabib did an entire 3rd round where he stood up and prayed with Conor. Didn't take him down once the entire round. That's a decision that he made. Like, this guy talks so much about his stand-up game. Let me stand up with him. And he standed up with him and they traded with each other. At some point, Khabib slapped him. Khabib slapped him and he was like, you saw that. I slapped you. I Nate Diaz'd you for the 2nd time in your life. Slapped him. Khabib wasn't trying to finish that fight. Eventually, in the 4th round, Khabib was like, okay, you've had enough now. I've taught you your lesson. And then Khabib choked him. And then it was done.
Okay, I never actually considered that. So in that case, and when I look back on it, you're right. I mean, I think there was a lot of bad blood in that fight. And that's what Conor does. He creates bad blood. You know what I'm saying? And that a lot of guys crack under that kind of thing because there's so much energy around it. And the people love it. It's like when people read negative comments under a post, people don't like read all the nice stuff and go like, oh, that's nice. That warms my heart. People love the aggro. People love the digs.
So, that's what it's all about, right? It excites us, right? I don't know. It's something about our human nature that we revel in other people's chaos and conflict. It really excites us.
Exactly. Yeah. And Conor,
I think it makes us
a genius at that.
Yeah, true that. But to be honest, it hasn't worked for him in a long time.
It hasn't.
Right?
It hasn't.
The first time it failed horribly was against Nate Diaz. Then it failed again against Floyd Mayweather. Then failed horribly against Khabib. And since then, we've only seen him fight Cowboy, which doesn't really count.
And then he changed his tune completely. Like, I respect this guy. He's so tough, blah, blah, blah. So maybe And this is another thing about the fight, that now with the lockdown and stuff like, and all the restrictions, is that there isn't that whole media storm, you know, where the crowd is there. And so
Yeah,
I don't know how much of a
yeah,
weapon that is anymore. And
yeah. True that. True that. There's no Irish fans cheering relentlessly, making the opponent feel small. Um, Dustin's also not gonna the press conferences, as you said, aren't that in depth where you really get to try and get into the mental. Now it's just like rock up and fight. And
Yeah.
I feel like when it comes to rock up and fight, Dustin is more prepared because he's been rocking up
time.
and fighting more than Conor has in the past
Exactly.
3 years.
Exactly. And like, if you have to look at Conor's career, look, we all explain why we love Conor. You know, he's like this, whatever, he's a phenomenon in terms of media savvy, right? But if you actually had to look at his MMA career, you know, with taking away all the Floyd Mayweather bullshit, like, it's not that story. It's not, there isn't even, sure, he had to come through like the featherweight thing and win that whole thing, which he did really well, and he used his media savvy really well to get those opportunities. But in terms of like actual, you know, I don't look at Conor and go like, this guy's a warrior. As a fan that watches a lot, he's not really he's not a guy that spent a lot of time in the battlefield.
Yeah, true that. I feel like outside of his featherweight expeditions, which was, I feel like the featherweight expeditions really caught the world by surprise. No one was expecting it, you know, coming through, taking out Aldo, taking out Chad Mendes, taking out, Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, which is good accomplishment. So that featherweight run was really good. But I think outside of the featherweight, those two Nate Diaz fights, many argue that Conor did not win the second Nate Diaz fight. And of course, we know the Khabib fight. He came into that fight. I think he stood zero chance of winning that fight, to be honest with you. But everyone was giving him a puncher's chance. I thought he stood zero chance, and he didn't even know it. He was in the press conference talking like he was gonna do something, and I was sitting there like, dude, do you know who this guy is? Like I don't think you research, like Google this guy. You don't want to mess with this guy, dude.
Did you
this
watch
guy
any
does
tape
this
on
as
this
a
guy?
job.
No, they talk about watching tape. You watch zero tape on this guy.
He was video, like Khabib doesn't fight. Khabib works. That's what he does. Like he goes to work. Look, he puts on his outfit. He gets on a bus. He stamps his ticket by the bus driver. He gets out. He clocks in at the office. He has a cup of coffee and he gets in and he works. And he doesn't stop working until it's 5 o'clock and they ring the bell and they open the doors and he goes home.
Extra. He does 2 hours extra.
Even then he does overtime.
He does
Like,
overtime.
we need to leave now. So I'm like, dude, yeah, Conor really in that fight, I was really like, dude, you're being so silly, bro. Just relax, just train and come correct. And he did it. So I think since featherweight, it's been a mess for him. And then Eddie Alvarez was just an idiot in his fight, to be fair.
Yeah, he's another guy that cracked under the pressure.
Yeah, Eddie Alvarez was silly. Apparently, they came into the fight with a wrestling game plan, and then he went and stood and trade, which is once again the mind games will do that to you.
Totally. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it, really. You guys know what to do. I think we covered everything, and keep watching. And peace out to everyone. And we will do a post-fight analysis.
Most certainly, yes.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Thanks. Like and subscribe as usual. And on the 28th, I'm dropping my online comedy show called Laughter is the Best Vaccine in this Pandemic. So please do check it out. 100 rand a ticket. I hope you enjoy that.
Peace out, guys.